Okay, we are live at 7 o'clock on, at least according to my computer, on East Coast time. I've got Mr. Bill Battaglia with me today. I'm going to just hover here for about 30 seconds and wait for people to join in. So as soon as you join in, drop me a comment down below if you would, please. Let me know you're here. Tell me where you're coming from. And once I've got a couple of viewers, we'll get started. There we go. We've got somebody. Hello. Now, I will say, if you could tell me when you say hi, just tell me either where you're from or who you are, because in the translation from Facebook to StreamYard, it doesn't carry your name over, so I can't tell who you are. But we've got a couple viewers here. So I'm going to launch on my intro of Bill. All right, so today's live. Welcome to today's live. Today I'll be interviewing a friend and a colleague of mine named Bill Battaglia. I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of Bill's history. So Bill's a Vietnam era veteran. He enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1963 and served on active duty until 65 as an avionics specialist. He then joined the reserves from 65 to 69. And after leaving the Army, he experienced a hard time finding a job. As many of you probably know, at that time, military veterans weren't exactly appreciated. Eventually, he landed a job as a security guard for a cemetery with the intention of, preventing vandalism. So while working the literal graveyard shift, he applied and was picked up for a government position. Bill's first entrepreneurial venture was a Shell gas station that he partnered with another person to own and operate. At the same time, Bill's wife started a daycare, and Bill assisted with that business as well. Bill left the government position and went full-time at the gas station for a 3-year period until a bypass was built and diverted traffic away from their station, which they then sold. He then re-entered the standard workforce and began working as a cable designer for a company named ESL, which was later bought out by another company, TRW. And after 28 combined years, Bill retired and moved to Maryland. Once on the ground in Maryland, Bill's wife opened a restaurant called the Doodah Deli, which I ate at a few times. Yum. Which employed most all of the family. Bill was offered and took on a position as the director for a smaller local company, and while there hatched the plan to open his own government services contract company. That company the company that he started took approximately $11,000 to stand up and landed its first contract valued at approximately $100,000 soon after opening its doors in 2004. In 2017, when the company was sold, its total contract values were around $15 million. Bill currently keeps himself busy with his privately owned business, Battaglia Consulting. And so it's with great pleasure I welcome Mr. Bill Battaglia. Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me this evening.
You're welcome, man. I'm glad to have you here. And uh, let's get right in. So, Bill, in your earlier discussion, you mentioned to me that you were raised in a family of entrepreneurs, right? Can you talk about that for me?
Sure. um, my family, my grandfather on my mother's side had a air conditioning, refrigeration, electrical business, and in the late 50s, he went into the construction business and bought and built homes on eastern Long Island, New York. Um, on my father's side, my grandfather on his side, grandfather Battaglia, he had a bar and grill in Rochester, New York. After he got out of the army in 1918, after the First World War. Um, and my father's great grandfather made wedding ornaments for wedding cakes, which my father eventually took that business over. Um,
Back before plastics were invented, right?
yeah, before were invented, my father took that business over when he returned from the Second World War. So it was natural for me to always have the vision of being in business for myself.
Cool. So speaking of that, how can you describe to me a little bit of how the entrepreneur spark happened for you? What got you started?
Uh, yes, I was working at Alameda, and I had the opportunity to get into the Shell gas station business with another fellow who was a Army veteran from the Korean War, and we had a company called Mission Pass Shell in Fremont, California, as you mentioned in your introduction.
Yeah,
And I really enjoyed that because I had control over my life and felt good about that. Felt good about being able to employ other people.
cool. Now and so in the intro, you at the time you were working Alameda, then you partnered with the gas station, and your wife opened a daycare. So you were involved in all three at one time for a while, right?
Yes, yes, and that's difficult, but you learn a lot.
Right. So let's talk about. I'd like to relate your military experience and with entrepreneurship. So what did you learn in the military that that you feel helped you as an entrepreneur?
Well, I think that veterans have a big advantage of being successful as entrepreneurs, new business startups. And it's because as a veteran, you haven't been indoctrinated to the 8 hour day, 40-hour work week. Most veterans are mission oriented. They work until the job is done. So I think understanding that and being able to work like that is a big advantage. I
Yeah,
think the other thing is people that were in the military realize they really never did anything alone. They always did it with a team. I think that's important because to be an entrepreneur, you've got to be able to build a team and lead a team and understand the principles of teamwork. So I think that's another uh, big advantage that a veteran has going into business. I think they're two essential characteristics of an entrepreneur.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. I mean, I completely agree with you. Um, the other part you and I talked about earlier was the kind of the lack of the concept of the 40-hour work week, right? Or the 8-hour work day. Um, a lot of us, some even more than others, a 12-hour day or a 12-hour shift was a norm. I mean, some guys, uh, even today, out in the sandbox are spending uh, 20 hours, on station, on duty, whatever, and crashing out for the 4 or 5 hours to get a quick cat nap and back on patrol. Or, I mean, there's long hours or are something people are accustomed to, military guys. Um, so what do you so let's talk about, like, you've obviously, you're team oriented, you've built teams in your businesses. What do you look for when you bring people onto your team?
Look at the character of the individual, the willingness of the individual to work toward producing something, being it a product, a report, that understands that in order to be successful, you have to satisfy a customer in some manner. There's always a deliverable at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I look for people that understand that principle, that the job isn't to put 8 hours in and go home, that when you're on a job, you have to produce. So I look for that quality in people that I hire.
And communication, right? That's a big thing too.
People have to be able to communicate openly,
Yeah.
orally, and in writing.
Yeah.
And they have to be able to engage in honest communication, not tell people what they want to hear.
Yeah. Right. That's yeah. I'm with you. That's an important factor. And then self-respect, right? You had mentioned to me that that's kind of a big thing for you, right? That your team members respect themselves, which in turn they'll show respect towards the customer, or towards
Right,
their fellow teammates, right? I mean, it's what um, a lot of us learn and employ.
right. If you don't have respect for yourself, how can you possibly have respect for anybody else?
Yeah, exactly, man. So, my next question to you: what would you consider the biggest advantage or benefits to being an entrepreneur, vice an employee? Right? I mean, you've had um, you've had multiple different kinds of companies, and actually, I hope to have you on some other. I'm going to have you on a couple of times, I think, here to talk about particulars about each of your different types of companies, but overall, what would you consider the biggest advantage or benefit to being an entrepreneur, vice just your, a standard hourly employee?
It's an opportunity to be in control of your own destiny. I think that's, for me, is number one. It's an opportunity to make as much money as your abilities rather than settle for an hourly wage or a salary. The biggest part for me at this point is being able to start companies, help people start companies, and employ people and give them good benefits. That's always been a huge motivator for me. Somebody's got to create the opportunity for other people.
Right.
So I think that's huge. But to be in control of your own destiny, and people say, well, it's risky. Uh, there's risk in everything.
Right.
You can go to work tomorrow. They can sell the company, lay you off. They can lay you off because there's lack of business.
Right.
You can
Uh,
get fired because you can't get along with somebody at work. So
right.
there's no free ride in this world. Uh, so when you really think about it, you're not in control of any of the situations I just mentioned. But as an entrepreneur, you actually you have, I don't say you have absolute control, but you have more control than you do if you're just working for somebody else.
Agree. Agree. And there's a great degree of satisfaction, right? Uh, like self esteem, self
Um,
satisfaction that you're making it on your own, right?
yes, self-esteem is very important to me. And you can get that self-esteem work for somebody else, but when you do it for yourself, to me, it's a different feeling. It's a different level of self-esteem.
Yeah, no doubt. And let me add a little bit of the risk factor to to being an employee. Um, to well, a story that honestly, an hour before I came on this, I called a lady that that is in the company that does my taxes, and it sounded like she wasn't in the office. It sounded like she was at home, and I said, "Hey, are you at home?" She said, "Yeah, I don't work for them anymore." I was like, "Oh, okay." Um, I had her personal number because it's a bit of a story, but at the her company phone had like gone on the fritz when we met and whatever. So anyway, I said, "Okay, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bother you." I said, do you mind to tell me why you don't work there anymore, right?" And because I'm thinking, "Oh no, don't tell me I'm having my taxes done by the wrong company." And she said, "No, I um I need to work from home. I have kids, right? And I need to work from home, and that wasn't in the cards." Uh, so she has kids and a father that's got stage 4 cancer, and she's caring for him. And she said, it wasn't in the cards with that company. So I went shopping for a job. I was offered a position. I wrote my letter of resignation where I was working. And when that letter of resignation came across, um, her current employers realized that she was going to a fellow company down the street, and they had a partnership, these two companies. And so her current employer threatened the new employer, "Hey, you're poaching my staff. If you hire her, we're going to have issues." So the offer, she tendered her resignation, resigned, the offer was rescinded, and she's at home. So, just saying, there's risk everywhere, right? I know people too that drove to work and found chains wrapped around the front doors, and a paper sign saying, "Sorry, we're closed." Right? I mean, you know that one. That was what was that burger? Something in Paradise, right? Just down the street
Yes,
from your office. Nobody even called the employees. They
right.
were they were closed, out of business. It's crazy. So anyway, I guess not to say that everybody's on the edge of being let go. I'm just trying to illustrate that there's risk with everything. Now, something that I think, Bill, you can appreciate and maybe expound on is that the rewards to being an entrepreneur far outweigh, or the potential rewards far outweigh the risk associated, right? When you sold your company, um, well, when you ran your company, you were able to basically write your own paycheck, right? I mean, you could bonus yourself and the staff if you wanted to, or maybe you could talk about that just a
Right.
moment.
Uh, I always believed in writing yourself a paycheck. And when you start out, you're usually writing paychecks out of your own pocket. But you get to the point where you want to write yourself a paycheck. And then you take your profits to bonuses. So you have a structured plan. And the nice thing about having your own company, you can plan your bonuses, you know how much they're going to be. So you can plan your strategy, your investment strategies a lot better.
Yeah,
And I work for companies that I receive bonuses, but you really don't know, you know when you're going to get them, but you don't know how much they're going to be. It's
right.
hard to really plan a strategy against that. Um, so I find that Very, very rewarding.
And speaking of bonuses, when I worked in Maryland at the company, the first 3 years we got bonuses every year. Like you said, I never knew how much it was going to be. They were pretty good bonuses. And then the fourth year, you kind of expect something. In the fourth year, the company said, "Oh, no, we're not doing bonuses this year." So I left, but it was a bit of a shocker. You kind of get used to that thing. But nobody got a bonus, which yeah. Anyway, so here's another, like, the last risk mitigation that I'll dwell on is, if you started your business while you were still employed, right? I'm still employed. I started my business. A lot of people will start their entrepreneurial venture as they are employed, and it's a great safety net, right?
Yes, and it's not a bad strategy. It was a strategy I used. Um, I've been in business consistently since '97, in one way or the other. And a lot of that time, I had another job.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't had another job in at least almost 20 years.
Right. Right.
Um, right now, I was consulting for a company that wanted me to come on full time, and I am working full time for them, but I'm still consulting for other companies on a non-competitive basis.
Right.
A lot of commercial companies. The company I work for is a research uh, nonprofit company.
And so I just threw your email, in the case that somebody wanted to reach out to you and ask any questions. I know that, and I'm hoping that he's in the audience. One of the recent group members is starting up a business, that perhaps needs some advice or some guidance on paperwork or that sort of thing. So I just threw that out there. Let me just go over to questions here quick, and actually, um, I just want to give some shouts out here. We've got Richard Kroll from Roanoke, Virginia. Richard, great to see you on the live here. Yvonne, as always, man, thank you for supporting. Thank you for being here. Here's a comment. I'm on paid time off due to testing positive for COVID and being really sick with COVID. My employer keeps bugging me to find out when I can return to work. Which, I mean, in the healthcare, I work in healthcare and I want to go back to work. But when I'm healthy, right now I'm not healthy. I mean, why would you, as a healthcare company, entice or pressure your employees to come back when they aren't ready or shouldn't, right? I completely agree there. And there's another, the freedom, right? I mean, and we didn't really talk a lot about that, but there's a lot of freedom involved in being an entrepreneur and being your own boss. um let's see. Sorry, let's see. Don't you have to worry about conflict of interest when working for two companies? Well, and we didn't actually talk about that. Bill and I talked about that off camera. At one company in Maryland, they did give him a hard time, right, Bill? They told you, hey, you can't do this. You've signed agreements that non-competitive agreements, right? And I'll let you kind of tell the brief story of how you work that out.
Yeah, I went to the company, told them what I wanted to do, and they said, "No, you signed this agreement." And I said, "Okay, I'll honor that," and I did for 2 weeks.
As long as it took to give notice.
And I left, and I went somewhere else, and I did what I wanted to do. Currently, I have an agreement with the company I work for. They're in research and development. It's a high-tech company out of Silicon Valley, California. And I have an agreement that I won't compete against them. And I don't. I don't uh, consult for anybody that's in that business, not even close.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with the situation. You have to deal with people. Uh, as an aside, the company I did go to work for before I started my own defense company, I had a relationship with them. I subcontracted them, they subcontracted to me all the time I was in business.
Uh-huh.
So it turned out to be positive for everybody.
Yeah, so right, there's an upside to honestly, when you look at things from a different perspective, your competition could actually be a partner, right? In the businesses in the business that you select to go into. There's a lot of people that will try to set you in the mind frame that everybody that's in your same, I guess, sector uh, or in a like business, they're the competition. You got to beat the competition. Oftentimes, um, Bill, you and I discuss this. Oftentimes, you can partner with the competition. You can help each other out, right? Uh,
Right. As an entrepreneur, you have to be able to compete with your competitors and team with your competitors and take this as a business opportunities. You know, when I was in business, I competed with many people here in Southern Maryland, where I live, and I'm still friends with all of the owners of them companies
yeah,
because we honestly competed against each other when that was what we needed to do, and when we needed to, we teamed together.
right.
So I mean, you can't look at everybody at your competitors as an enemy.
Yeah, yeah. Good point. Well, hey, Bill, we're rolling right up on the end of time. I wanted to take this opportunity to again thank you for coming on and hanging out with me and talking. Um, I plan, like I said, to bring you on. You've owned a restaurant. That's something that I think quite a few people have been interested in starting up at one time or another, or dream the dream. So I think next time I have you on, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the restaurant business and some pros and cons over there, if that's cool with you.
I look forward to it.
All right. All
Thank
right.
you for having me.
Oh, you bet, man. Thanks for being here, and everybody in the audience, thanks for attending. Cheers.